Hi, everyone. Welcome to our June webinar. I'm Duncan Gilman, the Dean of Students for Splash Media U. Our webinar is going to be a little bit different today because we don't have a moderator. So we're going to have all of our comments right here in Blab. I'm actually going to be doing some screen share stuff, so I'm hoping to come back to the Blab window so I can answer your questions. But again, it's just me and you directly here for this webinar, but I'm so glad you joined us. Quick word before we start. As I'm sure most of you, maybe all of you know, our office is on the Full Sail campus in Orlando. And I just want to say a quick thank you to the comments and love and support we've gotten. I've gotten some messages from you, from our students, and I really appreciate it. You may not know that I actually spend most of my time on the West Coast, but with our campus there in Orlando, it's sort of become a second home to me, and I'm there pretty often. So again, thank you so much for that. It means a lot. So I'm just going to say that much and now move on to our topic today. I wanted to talk about some time-saving hacks that we actually use, some of my favorite things to keep social media marketing moving quickly and efficiently. So we're going to divide it into a couple different sections here, and it may look familiar to you, those of you who are students at Splash Media U, because I've divided it about the same way. But I do want to keep it interactive as possible, even though we don't have a separate moderator with us today. Julio isn't with us. I'll keep it as interactive as possible. So I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to switch over to my screen share here so you can see some of these. Here we go. Let's take just 1 second here. I know it's going to look funny for 1 second as I switch over to my screen share. So the first question I want to ask you, and we'll do a couple of these and feel free to answer them in either order. The first one is, which social media marketing task would you describe as annoying but necessary? So what are those little things that you have to do to stay up to date with social media marketing for your business, but you just hate doing them? I'm sure there's more than one. Feel free to include a couple. And again, we're not going to go through the hashtag on Twitter. Just go ahead and put it in the Blab comments here, and we can talk about them there. Before we get to the second question, I'm going to describe in a little bit more detail how we're going to divide it up. I mentioned that we're going to talk about these time-saving tools and resources in a couple of different sections. And these sections may look familiar to you if you're a student of Splash Media U, because I felt like what better way to divide up the webinar than by the tactical wheel. These are the 5 tactics that we apply to the social media platforms that we teach and even those that we don't teach. We don't yet have a, pardon me, we don't yet have a program on Snapchat, but from a business perspective, you could take these same tactics and apply them to any other platform, say Snapchat or Google Plus if you use either one of those. And they are listening, building a strong community of followers, broadcasting to those followers, developing great original content that you can share with them and they can share with their friends and their networks, and then finally converting those followers into customers. This is, again, how we structure every platform that we teach, and I thought it might be a good way to approach our webinar today. So for our second question, before we dive into those resources that I've divided like this, which statement applies more to you? There's never enough time, or there are never enough ideas? Maybe a little bit of both. But if you feel like you can align more with one of these, which one would it be? And before we dive in, I'll go back to Blab to make sure everything is running smoothly. And let me take it off screen share for a second. Great, it looks like we have a couple of participants. Let me take that off for a second. We have a couple of participants joining us. Vicky says, time. I think that's Vicky down there. She says, never enough time. I totally agree with that. I feel like I can come up with some ideas, especially when I'm brainstorming. It's time that's a factor. If I had just a few more hours in the day, it would make all the difference. So go ahead and feel free to continue sharing your answers to those and chat with each other. I'm going to switch back over to our screen share, and we'll dive into some of my favorite time-saving resources. One thing to keep in mind as we go through these, forgot to mention this earlier, you can't do all of these and still save time. I'm going to give you lots of suggestions. If you try to do every single one of these suggestions, it probably won't work to increase your efficiency. So pick a few of these that you feel like work for you and try them out. And if they don't work, try another one out. That's the idea. Obviously, I'm going to throw lots of ideas out there today, and you can pick and choose the ones that work for you to help save you some time. So let me go ahead and switch over back to my screen. I'm going to go ahead and screen share here. And again, it'll look funny for just a second as I switch over to my my presentation. So what I did, just to break this up so that I was able to show you everything in one window, I've just put these slides right here in my browser so you can see. So let's go back to the first topic. That was listening, the first tactic that we teach, and the first one to approach your social media platforms is listening. And this is also where I drew the, I use listening to draw in my, time-saving tactics. So we're going to first talk about some time-saving resources and tools in the listening category, in the listening tactic. A few of these are saving your searches, a way you can organize your bookmarks and come back to them that'll save you a little time and also double as posting for Pinterest, where to find some trending topics and how to make that really easy, and then task routing so that you can make sure that your whole team is on the same page. So let's dive into these. The first one is save searches. Some of these you may already be using and some of them may be new. Again, the idea is to introduce you to a couple of new topics and hopefully reassure you that the ones you're already doing are the right ones you've chosen and they're working well. The first one is one that I think most of you probably know about or have at least heard about. It's a Google tool here called Google Alerts, and this allows you to save searches on the internet through Google specifically that return results based on a certain brand or a certain industry keyword. You'll see some examples here. So if I want to know who's talking about Splash Media U, I can save an alert for Splash Media U. I've also done a couple of these for news based on social media platforms. So as an example, I want to know when Instagram changes something on their platform because I want to be able to update our course, our Instagram course. So I've created an alert that alerts me to a new article on the Instagram blog. And you can see that I've done that. If you're not familiar with the site string, the site colon string, it's a way to look for results just on one exact URL or one domain. So I've created one of those for each of our platforms that we teach. So here, this is looking for anything new on the Instagram blog. This is looking for anything new on the LinkedIn blog. And again, the idea here is to keep me up to date on changes on those platforms, because typically if Pinterest changes something on their platform, they'll put out an article on their blog. So this will alert me when they do so. So you can have as many of these as you want. Some suggestions for your Google Alerts would be your brand name, who's talking about you, your competitors possibly is a good way to stay on top of what who's talking about your competitors and what your competitors are talking about. And then industry articles. So in this case, my industry is social media, so that's what I've done here. But you may want a magazine that you subscribe to. So it's a great way to organize these all together. And you can be alerted by these by email as well. You can choose to get an email when updates happen. You can get an alert just through your email. And I think mine is currently set up for a daily email. So I can get a daily email for any of these, and it curates them and puts them all together. I don't get a separate email for Instagram and a separate email for LinkedIn. It puts them all together in one email, very easy to read, because for me, I probably sound old-fashioned, but email is still essential to me. I still rely on email, and it's great to have everything in a summary once a day. Another great tool is through LinkedIn. And again, a lot of these tools are things you're already using, but maybe in a new way. I'd like to show you a new way to use some of these resources. LinkedIn, you're probably already on, but maybe you didn't know that you could save searches and be alerted through LinkedIn about new people in those searches. All you have to do is go to the search page, and you can get there easily by just clicking the magnifying glass. You don't have to type in anything into the search field. You click on the gear here and go to your saved searches. You can also save a search when you've used these filters to come up with some results. You can save that search. For the free LinkedIn version, you can have 3 saved searches, and I believe there are more searches allowed beyond those first 3 if you pay for premium. But I can click on my saved searches here, and it pulls up the searches for people that I have that I want to have, that I want to be alerted on. I've created 2 samples you can see here. Full sale in PDX. So I'm in Portland. So I've named my search after named my search as a local search for Portland, Oregon. I want to be alerted if there are full sale folks in Portland. I would love to be able to network with them. Also, marketing in Portland. Again, these are local searches, but you could use the LinkedIn filters to come up with whatever search you want. And you can set how often you want to get it. I want to see this alert weekly, and then you can edit it with the little edit icon here. Again, I can have another one in here. I can have up to 3 searches for the free, LinkedIn, and more for premium. But a great way to be automatically notified. Again, it's about saving you time. Automatically notified when there are more people you may want to add to your network or network with personally. I can do a similar thing on Twitter. I think a lot of people use another publishing or search platform in addition to Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. They may use something like Hootsuite, which I do, or Buffer, which I do as well. So we tend to forget about the built-in search functions that are in Twitter itself. Some really great search functions if you happen to like the Twitter interface on its own. And you can get to those by going to the search bar, and then you can see your saved searches here up at the top. You can also go to a new search and save it as one of your saved searches. So here my example is content marketing. Let's do a new search here. Let's go to, let's just try social media marketing. So social media marketing. This is just a standard search on Twitter. And again, the idea behind these tools in the first section is to listen to what's going on into your industry, listen to what's going on in your profession, in the world around you, and make it easier for you to follow these things so you can get a better handle on what's happening. So I've got my search there, and if I go to more options here, I can save this search, and it will add the search up here in my saved list. Let's take that off, and you can see, let's go back home, probably a better view of this. Let's go up to the top, search Twitter, and I've got my saved searches right here, social media marketing. I've got 3 of them actually, social media marketing. This one here has a little bit more complicated search string. It's got LinkedIn or Twitter, something. And then also, again, listening for the brand Splash Media U or hashtag Splash Media U. So you can come back to these at any time. You can also, if you do prefer the publishing platforms like Hootsuite, you can always take those same searches and put them into a Hootsuite stream. I can say it quickly, probably can't. But we'll actually talk about Hootsuite in a little bit as one of our other resources for interacting with your colleagues. Let's move on to Pinterest. Now, one of the other options I had talked about besides saving your searches is being able to bookmark things that you find. And one way you can save time and double your efforts here, or decrease your efforts and double your efficiency, is by putting some of those bookmarks in Pinterest. If you have a Pinterest account for your brand, why not go ahead and bring in stuff that you're reading to share with your audience? So you can create a board, for example, that is just, let's see, we call this social media marketing links. And you don't have to call it links. You can call it, call it bookmarks or call it articles. But it's a great way to bring in your to-read articles, things that you're interested in coming back and taking a look at later, rather than using just your browser save or your bookmark function in your browser. Might as well put them in Pinterest. You can still come back and read them later, but also this is a way to share them with your community and get some interaction on your Pinterest page. Move on to the next one here. The next one, so that was my example for bookmarks. An example for finding trending topics is this huge, great resource called BuzzSumo. Hopefully you've at least heard about it, even if you haven't tried it out. It's an enormous resource. What a robust trending search tool. And you can divide it by a variety of different filters here. By date, so I put in my topic here, content marketing, but I can filter by date, by language, country, content type. I can look just for infographics, for guest posts, and that's just in the content side. I can also do the same thing for influencers. So if I want to find out who is big in the world of content marketing, I can click on the influencers tab and click on search and content marketing, and it'll pull up the biggest names talking about content marketing. So if I want to reach out to one of these people to maybe do a guest post or an interview, I know exactly who they are by the amount of authority and influence they have. Just an incredible resource. I hope you take advantage of it. And again, you could spend a ton of time here, but the idea is to save you time. So come here, once a week, once a day even, quickly check what's trending and get out. I mean, the idea is to, again, save you time and give you a couple of different resources to go and check and then use and actually put use. On the internal side, you can actually do some great content sharing through a tool like Hootsuite. I just pulled up an example tab of a project I've helped work on. And a way to share these things and assign them to different team members is just by going to an individual item, let's say in a search stream. And we talked about a search stream just a second ago in Twitter itself, but I've pulled in one of those Twitter searches into a stream here. And I can assign one of these if I want someone else on my team to retweet it or send it out or create an article about it. Anything I want someone else to take on and run with, I can assign it right here from the individual tweet. Just go here to the little drop down and assign. I can assign to me if I want to come back to it later myself, but I can assign it to a team member to say, go create an article about this or retweet it or respond to this person. This is especially helpful for customer service. You can actually use Hootsuite, bet you didn't know this, you can use Hootsuite as a customer service tool by taking these mentions of your brand or something else in the industry, like you see in my search stream here, and assigning it to a team member to go say, please handle this either content item or customer service item. All right, that's our fast blow through the listening section. We're going to move on to the building community section, where we're going to talk about lists and saved items a little bit further in more detail in Twitter and LinkedIn. And then talking about a tool that helps you create the right kind of community, because it's going to be a waste of your time if you're creating a huge community that doesn't interact with you. That's not going to save you time at all. So let me just quickly minimize this, come back to black for a second. I want to make sure I'm not ignoring you in our community here. Fantastic. Okay, so let's move on to our community building tactics. First, again, we're going to talk about some list capabilities in Twitter and LinkedIn. Some of these you may be familiar with. Lists are not really the main focus of Twitter, but they're such a great time-saving feature, because if you have a ton of people you're following, into the hundreds or into the thousands or beyond, it can be very overwhelming to try to sort through this fire hose of information that you get from Twitter of tweet, 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 tweet. And of course, Twitter, if you've seen the news on Twitter in the last couple of months, Twitter has tried to overcome this by focusing on the tweets you're more likely to interact with up at the top, things that you might have missed since the last time you logged in. So Twitter is working on ways to make your time and your timeline more efficient. But it still can be very overwhelming if you're trying to scroll through every single tweet of people you follow. One great way around that is by creating lists and going just to the lists of things that you care about on a regular basis. So here are I've just gone to the profile section here and gone to lists up here. Here are the lists that Splash Media U is subscribed to and the ones that we're a member of. And you can look at these for other brands as well. You can go to, I use Starbucks and Whole Foods as examples a lot of the time because they're so big on social media, but you can go and see which lists that they're on and which ones that they've created and subscribed to. If that industry applies to you. Obviously, it would be different if you are a wedding planner or if you sell insurance. But you can do the same thing. Go to an influencer and check out who's on their lists and what lists people have put them in is a great way to get started. But following these lists is a great way to keep up with just a narrow slice of the entire industry, and it makes Twitter a lot less overwhelming. So here we go. Let's take a look at social media news, a list that we created. And here we're following, you can see which members we've put in this list by going to members. And you'll notice it's very similar to the list that I created in my Google alerts. I created a list of different alerts to be notified when these platforms have updates. And I've created a similar thing on Twitter for more timely, kind of immediate updates that they send out through their tweets. YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Yelp, HubSpot, a great resource. We'll come back to that one, actually. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. And then if I go to the list itself, I can see in the tweets here what all of these different accounts are talking about in a much more filtered, narrow slice, rather than having to comb through every single tweet. Really great time saver there. Similar thing you can do on LinkedIn. You can create a list of people by topic. And you do that by creating tags with your connections. So here I am back on my, I'll back up a little, show you how I got here. I went to connections. And you can see down here on the left, I can filter by tags. I've created a tag called social media marketing. And here are all the connections that I've tagged with my social media marketing tag, basically. And I can see what they're all up to. I can see what they're doing currently. I can reach out to them if I want to network, do an interview, whatever ideas I have I want to share, I can reach out to them just by going to them through the tag that I've created. And it's very easy to create this tag. Go to the user himself, and I can go to contact info. Right here under my relationship, contact info is separate. Right here under my relationship, I can click on tag and put on a tag on the individual contacts there. Another great way to get everything kind of together in one place is through a separate app. And one of the ones I wanted to show you was one called ManageFlitter. This is a great way to do a lot of those big tasks that you want to do to help create that quality network instead of a quantity network right in one place. So ManageFlitter specifically targets your Twitter audience and offers these easy ways to check to see who you're following that may be a spam account. You don't need to follow them anymore. Who's following you and sort them. And a great way to take a broad look, a general look at your Twitter community and then take actions based on what you see. And again, it's all about creating a more quality community over quantity, because having a huge Twitter community that you don't have time to interact with is going to waste your time. But having a smaller, not necessarily smaller, but a more focused, dedicated Twitter community that you can actually interact with and get value from, that is going to save you time in the long run. So I went to ManageFlitter.com and I've connected it to the Splash Media U Twitter account. And over here on the left, you can see some great tools. I can sort by the fake following. So when I hover over, you'll see what this is. So this is showing the spam accounts that we're following that we can unfollow. So I can unfollow any accounts that aren't relevant to me anymore. That's just one example. There are a lot of great filters over here on the left that I highly recommend you check out. But a great tool, again, for creating the quality over quantity. Let's move over into our third tactic here, broadcasting. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of ways that I create workflows for myself for broadcasting quickly on the fly and being able to get out some content that's relevant to my audience quickly. One of these is through queued posts, through a combination of a great app called TwitShot and then Buffer. Hootsuite also offers a queued or automated scheduling option, and is certainly worth checking out too. Buffer was the originator of this. The idea is that you find different articles whenever you find them through surfing throughout the day. You put them into your queue, and then throughout your schedule, Buffer sends them out. It creates a buffer, so to speak, of all this great content and sends it out at appropriate times, so that you don't feel like you're tweeting 5 times over the course of a couple of minutes. Instead, you can tweet 5 times throughout the course of the day, even if you find all of those things to tweet in the span of the same 2 minutes. Hopefully that makes sense. You'll see what I'm talking about in my workflow in a second here. Let me move over to this great app called TwitShot. TwitShot makes it very easy to add images to the things you tweet out. So rather than having to take a photo and add it and upload it, if you're just tweeting out an article, TwitShot makes it very easy to bring in an image from that article before you tweet it out. All you have to do is connect it to Twitter and then paste in your link here. We've actually shown this app in another one of our webinars, but a great to bring it back as one of those time saver resources. So let's go to something in social media here. I'm just going to search for a quick article here to show you an example of how this works. Social Media Examiner, by the way, if you're not familiar with it, great resource on everything social media related. Let's just scroll down to an article. Oh, here's a great one. Especially because it's about something visual, so it's even better. So I'm going to just take this URL. I don't need that tab anymore. I'm cluttering up things as it is. I'm going to paste it here into the box, and automatically TweetShot comes up with an image to tweet. Tweets with images, maybe this goes without saying, get a lot more interaction, they're a lot more attention grabbing than tweets without images. So it's a great way to automatically bring in an image. Even if there's not an image with that particular article, you can upload one or search for one. And this goes through a search of public domain images, or I should clarify, they're not necessarily public domain, but the creators of the images have given them certain usage rights. I should clarify that. But a great way to quickly grab an image, either from the article or upload one yourself. And it even gives you a choice here. You can select any of these images that came from that particular article. So in terms of workflow, what I've done when I'm away from the office or I'm just got my phone with me, I'm traveling, I use a combination of TweetShot plus Buffer as a workflow. So if I'm finding an article, if I'm scrolling through any news source or news app, see an article that I think would be relevant to my followers, I can send it out through TweetShot first. I'm sorry, I'm not able to demonstrate this to you directly from my phone, but I can send it out through TweetShot, choose my image, crop it if I need to, then from TweetShot, send it over to Buffer, or even through Hootsuite if you prefer. So it's a great way to create a little workflow to maximize the impact of that tweet with an image and then still schedule it to go out automatically. Another great automation tool I want to mention is for drip marketing. And I say automation, it's not completely automated. It doesn't do everything for you. You do have to set up the schedule. But once you do, an app like Missing Letter does a great job of making it very easy to send out a series of tweets based on your original content throughout a time span for as long as a year or more. So what Missing Letter does is when you hook it up to your blog. When you create a new article, Missing Letter automatically sends you an email saying your drip marketing content is ready to go. And what it does is it creates a series of tweets based on the content from your article. So here's an example. We had an article a while back on the Splash Media U blog about, let's see if I'm getting a little, I want to make sure everything's working on the webinar here. So I'm able to take the article and then choose different sections from it that I want to tweet out automatically. So here's an example. As I mentioned before, we had an article not too long ago on the Splash Media U blog called 13 More Ways to Use Live Video. And what Missing Letter did, and be sure you spell that correctly, it's got no second E, MissingLetter.com, no second E in there. What Missing Letter has done is it creates a series of tweets and fills in some of the content. So it suggests things to mention, it suggests hashtags based on that article that I've created. So I can basically drip market this article throughout the span of a year and have it continue to work for me based on these suggestions. And of course, I can go in and edit these suggestions if I need to, but it's got quote graphics, pulls in the graphics that I've used. You see this one again, pulls in the graphics and photos that I've used from the article, hashtags that I've used, quotes. It's incredibly helpful if you've actually used headings and bullet points because it'll pull those in as well. So you can see these are scheduled for, this is scheduled for October. This is scheduled for January. This is scheduled for April. So a great way to automatically pull in a whole schedule of a year's worth of content based on just one article. And you can imagine how powerful this is if you post articles on a daily basis. You can set each one of these to go out for a full year's worth of content for every article that you post. All right, we're running short on time here. We're getting close to our half hour. So I want to go ahead and quickly move through our last two sections, content and then conversion. The first one here, content. Here are a couple of ways to greatly increase your brainstorm capacity. One of the questions that I asked in our polls is, which one applies more to you? You feel like there's never enough time or never enough ideas. Well, if you're one of those people who feels like both apply to you, this first tool is one I think you'll really enjoy. It's one, I haven't used it in a while, but back when I first heard about it, I was all over this tool. And I'm so glad I kind of came back to it because I really love it. A couple of other ideas before we move on to it. Really think about how you can recycle your content to save you time in the long run. Make your time more efficient by taking the posts that you create, turn them into a podcast, turn them into a video. That same content can be repurposed and recycled in a bunch of different ways. But let's go ahead and I want to show you this tool before we run out of time. This tool on HubSpot is their topic generator. And it's such a great tool. You can actually, there's a version of this that creates a whole year's worth of content, but this is great just for 5 quick topics. Let's say you talk about the world of accounting. Let's say you're an accounting firm. So maybe your topics are business accounting. This is kind of like Mad Libs. If you remember Mad Libs, the old games, you can put in nouns here. So it's asking me for 3 nouns about my industry. So I'm going to say business accounting. I'm going to say financial, what do we call this? Let's say financial trends. And then let's say money tips. So here are my 3 nouns: business accounting, financial trends, money tips. So, and this could be anything based on your industry. Obviously, you cater it to what you do. And then I click Give Me Blog Topics. And what it's doing is creating 5 titles that are attention-grabbing and catchy. And you don't have to use these exact titles, obviously, but you can use these as a jumping-off point for the titles that you create. And once you've got the title, I feel like the blog is much easier to write once I've got some direction. So here are the 5 titles that it suggests. And again, these may not be directly applicable 100% to the content plan that you have, but a great jumping off point. So for my industry here, my sample industry of accounting, the history of business accounting, why we love financial trends, and you should too. Again, you can swap some of these out and adjust and tweak them if you need to. How to solve the biggest problems with money tips. Okay, so it's not perfect, but you could swap this out and make this how to solve the biggest problems with business accounting. 10 quick tips about business accounting. Great. The ultimate cheat sheet on financial trends. These for the most part, are not so bad. I wouldn't say that every single one of them is spot on, but some great attention-grabbing titles to get you started in your content planning. The last one we're going to talk about is some tips for maximizing your efficiency on the conversion side, and then we'll get to some of your questions and wrap it up. One thing that I think will save time, that is sort of a general topic that we talk about but don't really dive into the how-to, is creating customer-driven marketing campaigns. What I mean is having your customers do the marketing for you to a certain extent. If you can get your customers to talk about you and incentivize them to do so, then a lot of the work is taken off of your plate to create, instead of 3 posts a day, maybe just 1 post a day. And that formula, the formula doesn't work exactly the same way for every business, of course. But if you can create a campaign, for example, where someone can tag a friend in a particular post, tag someone who needs business accounting. Don't use my business accounting example, I can't. But you get the idea. You're having your followers, your network, do some of that marketing for you by spreading the message out there. And you're encouraging them and incentivizing them to do so by maybe offering some kind of a prize or a discount. That could be up to you. But by creating a campaign that's customer driven, it takes some of the weight off of your shoulders. A couple other things on the conversion side are some of the things that we're doing right now. For example, a haiku deck presentation. I created this presentation that you're seeing here in haiku deck, which is a great fast tool for creating presentations. All you have to do is come up with your topics, your titles, your bullet points, and then search through haiku deck's images and their image banks to pull in some great relevant images for the backgrounds, and you can even tweak slides and export them if you want to do some more tweaking in PowerPoint or another presentation piece of software. But a great place to start your presentation and make it image driven to begin with, which is something I think we often leave for later. We think, oh, I'll put in images later, but a great resource for actually making it image driven to begin with. Another way to go if you're creating a pitch deck is through Canva. We talked about Canva back when we did our image webinar, but Canva is also a great tool for presentations. You can see a couple of different presentation templates here in Canva. If you click on one, it'll show you some of the additional pages it has as part of that template. For example, this one is, the sample here is called an effective marketing. It's a template based on an effective marketing presentation, but of course you can change that to whatever presentation you need. And it's got all of these different slide types that you can modify. It's got a quote type. It's got a statistic type for some facts and figures here. Just a variety of different slide types that you can put together in a pitch or even a live presentation like we're doing now. So a couple of ways to make your pitches and your presentations more efficient by making them visually driven first and not having to worry about the visual aspect of it later, especially if you're not a graphic designer, which if you've seen some of my graphics that rely on Canva, I clearly am not. So for our final question, you have a favorite time-saving tip to share, and I'll leave you with this as I go back to Blab. Let me go ahead and get out of my full screen here, and I'll close this to make it a little less confusing to watch. Okay, so Vicky asked, we'll go back to some of the questions that you had during the presentation. Vicky asked, how do you know it's spam on Twitter? Oh, you don't. So it's a great question. So on ManageFlitter, the system isn't necessarily perfect. You don't know that it's spam, but the way that you check is by going through those accounts. Through that, you go through that list and check to see if it's an account that actually is spam for you. There's no black and white, this is spam, this isn't, because if there's an influencer who tweets a lot, who has a huge volume of tweets, that may not necessarily be spam, even though it triggers as spam for ManageFlitter. Also, it's important to keep in mind that ManageFlitter can't automate certain tasks for you. Twitter does not allow bulk unfollows or follows anymore. They used to at the very beginning, but they've removed that from their API. So what you can't necessarily do is unfollow a bunch of people at once. You can, however, check them in a little checkbox and save them to unfollow later. So it makes the task more efficient. It doesn't automate it completely, but it does make it more efficient because you can see at a glance who your spam following, not followers, your spam following might be, and then unfollow them later very quickly and efficiently. And the second question, my option says you can connect TwitchBot with Hootsuite. Yes, you can. So what you do is, well, you can't connect them directly. I connect them through my phone. So TwitchBot connects directly to Buffer from the TwitchBot web page. But what I like to do on my phone, because I use both Buffer and Hootsuite through my phone as well as desktop, is I have the share, and forgive me, it may be slightly different on Android and Windows devices. I have an iPhone, and when I'm on an article, if you're on an iPhone, you know what I'm talking about. If you're on an article, on Safari, there's a little button at the bottom for sharing. And when you tap that button, it gives you a variety of ways to share that article. You can share it to a message, a text message to someone else. You can share it as a reminder. You can share it through mail, Twitter, Facebook. So if you connect these services through your phone, then you can share an article through TwitChat. So that's what I've done. I've added TwitChat as an app on my phone, which means I can share through TwitChat. So what I do is I find the article that I want to share out. I tap on TwitChat, and from there, it gives me my image choices like you saw me demonstrate there. And I can upload an image or choose a different image. Before I tweet it, I don't tweet it necessarily. I may tweet it through TweetShot. I may tweet it through TwitChat if I want to tweet it now. If I want to tweet it later, I can do it through Buffer or through Hootsuite by doing that same share function. So I go and you'll have to experiment a little bit with this on TwitChat itself. But there's a little ellipses tool up at the top right of TwitChat, and I can do it offers the same sharing apps. So again, I can share through Twitter, Facebook, add to notes, through mail. One of those options, if I have Hootsuite on my phone, is Hootsuite, which is amazing. So I can tap Hootsuite, and then I can choose my network, edit my text, etc. So again, it takes some practice to make this actually efficient, because it may seem a little bulky at first, because you may be wondering why not go just straight through Hootsuite. You can if you're just retweeting or sending another tweet out that's already out there in the Twittersphere. If you're tweeting directly from an article, or if you want to send a piece of content out from that piece of content, this is a great way to put the visuals first. Again, to make it visually forward and save you a step of having to find the photo somewhere else, screenshot it, bring it in, take the photo if you want to, if you are trying to take the photos yourself. A great way to save you that step of getting the photo from somewhere else. You can get it straight from TwitChat and then auto-schedule that post or manually schedule it out through Hootsuite or another service that you use. Again, I'm not going directly from Twitch. It's confusing. I'm not linking TwitChat to Hootsuite. I'm just using my phone sharing apps to share from here to here to here. It's a workflow, and you'll come up with one that works a little bit better for you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're a little bit over time. Those are some great questions. I would love for you to share after the fact some of the time sharing tips and tools and resources that you're using. I know we went through these kind of fast, but you can share some of these using the hashtag #SplashWebinar. Feel free to tweet me at Duncan Gilman, or through our program, you can tweet to Julio at @SplashMediaU. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon, certainly at our July webinar, if not before.